Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today here at X-Raised, where knowledge meets inspiration in the intricate dance of industry evolution. I'm your host, Miles, coming back here to leave the lead on innovation, leadership, sustainability, and the kind of purposeful business that doesn't just make profit. It makes progress. And here's the thing, this episode's topic is not just timely, it's timeless because we're talking sustainability. Not just the hashtag, okay? Not just the once a year initiative, but the real, tangible blueprint for impact kind of sustainability. And what better occasion than Earth Day 2025 to talk about what it really means to embed environmental responsibility into the DNA of a business. And speaking of DNA, our guest today might as well have sustainability running through his. He is not only a seasoned business leader, but he's also the force behind one of the world's leading ISO certified educational platforms, the kind of platform that doesn't just teach businesses how to tick boxes, but how to walk the talk when it comes to corporate social responsibility. With over 4 decades of experience under his leadership, ACI Global, a founding member of the Global Reporting Initiative, is shaping organizations that set and meet standards. Our guest is definitely a man who quietly but powerfully raising a generation of environmentally conscious leaders. So here's the managing director and CEO of ACI Global and e-Quip, the one and only Ian Erskine. Hi, Ian.
Welcome again, and thanks for the lovely introduction.
It's very nice to have you back on the show, Ian, and your timing is impeccable as usual. Earth Day 2025 is here, and no one explains sustainability quite like you. So, thank you for being here to help us understand what it truly means in practice, not just for the planet, but for the people and organizations who share it. So, let's kick off with the big picture here before we completely dig deeper into our topic today. Let's go and touch on what's really currently happening in Mount Kosciuszko National Park, which is home to the Mighty Snow Mountain Dams project. You can tell us what's happening right there in Australia.
Yes, well, it's very sad in a lot of ways, and what has happened is that part of the push to introduce renewable energy into the Australian grid, they have to build substantial amount of power lines across the country. Now, part of that is hooking up the Snowy Mountain scheme to the grid. Now, I have no idea how they managed to get around the environmental laws, but they have, and they've literally torn a path right through over the top of all the mountains, nearly half a kilometre wide, and goes for kilometres, and they have destroyed the national habitat and left it completely bare, basically. Now, I employ every viewer to have a look, just do a search on the web, and the National Park, Australian National Parks have put this out. You'll see it's under the heading of destruction of Mount Kosciuszko, and it is just willful damage. Now, it's everything that we talk about in reference to environmental sustainability. What they've done here is the complete reverse. It is, as I was explaining to you before we came on air, it's just as if you went out to your beautiful garden with a chainsaw, cut everything off to the ground to bare dirt and left it. You would destroy the habitat for your birds and your insects and so forth. Now, this is what they've gone and done. And to me, it's sacrilege. And they've scarred the Mount Kosciuszko National Park for life, and it is unforgivable.
Yeah.
Now, people have to now begin to voice their concerns, and what better way to do it in Earth Day, to celebrate Earth Day? Let's celebrate Earth Day and push against this utter madness.
Yeah.
And as you know, when you and I talk about sustainability, number one, sustainability, we start about the Earth itself, the planet, right? Now, the planet has to support the people, which is you and I, our children, our grandchildren, our future generation. And again, as we were discussing before we came on air, it's our duty to leave our planet in a better way than it was previously, or we leave it in a pristine manner the way it is now. And going back to the destruction of Mount Kosciuszko, we can't allow things like that to happen.
Yeah.
And this is where there's certain people have this notion that they're above the law, they can do anything they like. Well, I'm sorry, they can't, because our future generations should stand up and demand that to be reversed. They can't do things like that.
Yes, and it's really sad because this is causing massive permanent damage to Kosciuszko National Park, Ian. And good thing, though, there are people like you who are fighting for a real change. And now I know Earth Day is a global moment, but for a company like yours that's been championing sustainability for decades, I imagine it's more than that. It's a movement. So, what does this mean to ACI Global, and how does your organization weave environmental awareness and sustainability into your everyday business practices?
Well, again, we tie it into the principles of corporate social responsibility, okay? And we talk about accountability, transparency. We talk about ethical behaviour. We talk about respect for stakeholders. And when we talk about stakeholders, we talk about our future generation. Okay? So we have to have respect for them. We have to have the respect for the understanding that the environment has to be left so that they can live in peace, in prosperity, right? So they have to be able to, if they're farmers, they have to be able to sustainable farming practices continue on the way the majority of agricultural producers do it today. They farm in a sustainable manner. And I'll defy anyone that can demonstrate or tell me that farmers don't look after their land. Because if they don't look after their land, they are unable to produce food to feed the world's population. And that's basically what we teach. We instruct and educate and transform people that come through our training courses to have a basic understanding of corporate social responsibility. They then have to understand that a very big part of that is looking after the environment.
Yes.
And a very big part of that is climate, right? And I always, rather than relate it and call it climate change, because I think just the two words climate change is very poorly understood. Whereas if you call it changes to the climate, people then understand. And then I can talk people through, well, when it's really hot in Australia, temperatures are rising above 45, getting up to 50 degrees. You don't go out in a short sleeve shirt without a hat, without sunglasses, without sunscreen. Because if you do, you get sunburnt, and that can cause skin cancers and things like that. But also, our crops have to be looked after when it's really hot as well, and our trees and things like that. So you've got to have enough water to be able to water your trees and things like that. And I still find it a little interesting being an ex-farmer when we now live in one of the towns at Astonfield near Maitland. And it often amazes me when it becomes quite dry over a number of weeks and even months. People fail to go out and water their trees. And then when I'm out for my walk, I say how dry it is. Oh, look, the leaves are beginning to fall off. And I say, yes, because they're dry. You have to water them. And what happens, and it has always happened this way, is that you will get extremes in the weather, in the temperatures. So you can go from, say, 35 or 40 degrees to 48 to 50 degrees. And with that extreme burst of heat, trees can just drop dead, right? And no one wants that. So that's what every one of our courses has a module on corporate social responsibility. So they have to understand their role within society, their role within or being on Earth. So they actually have to be duty holders, so to speak, of the world so that the world is left in a better place.
I love how you said that it's not just about the planet, it's about how we show up for it every single day. It's a holistic approach. Obviously, Earth Day isn't just April 22nd for you guys, it's practically a standing appointment on your calendar with high standards and ISO protocols. So, now let's build on that, Ian, because for many businesses, sustainability still feels like a little abstract, right? So, how do ACI Global's ISO certified training programs and your signature ACI model actually help organizations move from good intentions to measurable environmental impact?
Measurable is a very important word because we tie it all into the organisation's key performance targets and indicators and their objectives to achieve those targets. And one of those is environmental sustainability. And going back to what we're talking about, or we were talking about, and we talked about this in a past episode, when climate change or changes to the climate, as I talk about it, was introduced into the standards, a lot of people came back to me and they said, oh, climate change is ho-hum, I don't necessarily believe in it. And I explained to them and I said, well, climate change as two words to me is meaningless. But if we talk about changes to the climate over given periods and seasons and over many years, and what a lot of people don't remember or don't think about is you have to go back thousands of years to get a true picture of how the planet has evolved.
Yeah.
Now, going back to what we're saying about here is we take organisations through an understanding of their objectives and targets, and a very big part of that is the environment. And a very big part of working within the environment is how the people work within their environments.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to be fully aware of changes to the climate. And for argument's sake, a very simple analogy. If they get up and they want to go to work very early in the morning, and there has been a change in the weather from very hot to extremely cold, they have to make sure they dress accordingly. And I've had some people say, oh, that's such a simple way of looking at it. And that's the way I always like to do it. Go right back, make it simplistic, and that way people will understand that they have to dress accordingly. And as we were saying in a previous episode, that I remember working with one of the really big open cut mines, and many years ago they used to just wear hard hats with their ears sticking out from underneath.
No, I remember.
No protection around the neck. And one of the young ladies that attended the toolbox at the start of the audit, I suggested, why don't you put like a cloth inside your hat and hang down over your ears and the back of your neck?
Yeah.
And she said, Mr. Erskine, that's a great idea. When I go home tonight, I'll sew up something and I'll bring it and show you. And anyway, she was a little bit late attending the meeting, but she walked in with her hard hat on and the protection round her ears, over her neck, and everyone looked at it, and everyone literally stood up and clapped. And I think we set the trend, and that now is commonplace in Australia, where people put that inside their helmets and it hangs down over their ears, around their neck, because when it's really hot, in Australia, we get severely sunburned. So, and it's very dangerous because it creates cancers.
Yes.
Yes. So just in a nutshell, what we take the corporate social responsibility principles, we embed that in all our courses, and very, very heavily within the environmental sections of the programs, so that people can become living patriots, so to speak, of improving the environment as they go.
Well, as you said earlier, the magic word here is measurable. I mean, anyone can hug a tree. Environmental sustainability goes a very long way, and turning ESG goals into KPIs and targets, that takes structure, discipline, and a bit of Ian Erskine style wisdom, I must say, making it indeed part of everyone's DNA. So that brings us to people because even the most beautiful framework can't move itself, right? How does ACI Global focus on developing the competence, skills, and capability of individuals, empower both professionals and organizations to be true stewards of sustainability?
Well, it comes very back to, again, we're talking about objectives, but we actually talk about each and everyone's personal performance indicators and their objectives and targets for themselves personally within each of their roles. So we call that KPPIs, key personal performance indicators. And one of their key personal performance indicators is looking after their environment. It doesn't matter whatever role they're in, they have to demonstrate within their jobs, within their careers, that that part of their performance indicator is being measured on an ongoing basis. And that way, and this is hence we talk about accelerating continuous improvement, ACI, that's how we get accelerating continuous improvement across the board within each of the roles within an organisation. And that enables the organisation to achieve additional traction and ongoing sustained success. And I employ people to go to our website and they can have a look at our Educational Operational Manual, EOMS, and they'll see we've done what we call a pestle analysis. Okay. Now, in that pestle analysis, we've done a task on environmental sustainability when it relates to changes to the climate. And there's 6 to 8 areas within the manual of where we address that in separate areas. And it's very clear where people can have a look at. They can take that away. They can copy and paste the whole manual and use it themselves as they like. But just going back to the environmental sustainability targets, if they use that as a guide within their organisations, they won't have any problems. They'll be able to meet their objectives and targets. They'll be able to meet their compliance obligations, and they do that by wanting to conform. Remember, we talk about you conform to comply.
Yes.
That's the way we talk about it, because everything works much better and much smoother if you do it from your own heart and you want to do it yourself, rather than have an environmental inspector turn up on your door, go into your workplace and have a look at areas of concern and say, I'm going to fine you for that, I'm going to fine you for that, and I'm going to fine you for that. You're doing a terrible job. It's much better to be one step ahead of them all the time by doing the right thing and doing the right thing for your people.
Right. Again, we conform to comply. And as long as we've got passionate, well-trained individuals behind the wheel and organization like yours leading them, I think this green ship will sail just fine, Ian. So let's zoom into leadership now, especially with your ISO Scholarship Cadetship program. How are you preparing the next generation of business and environmental leaders through initiatives like this? And why is early education such a game changer when it comes to long-term sustainability?
Well, this is a very interesting one because, with evidence that we have in reference to the Mount Kosciuszko National Park, that will be a must read, must observe, and then they will need to come back and report on what is actually wrong with what is happening here. So that what we will encourage them to do will be, they will encourage to do a root cause analysis. So they will go back to the very start and say, well, hold on, who actually gave the order and how was that order allowed to go ahead to destroy Mount Kosciuszko National Park and scar it for life? How were they able to do that when there's clear environmental guidelines there for everyone to see, for everyone to read? Every organisation in Australia must abide by them, right? But for some unknown reason, the government itself has allowed an appointed organisation working on their behalf to destroy Mount Kosciuszko. So our graduates will be required to report on that. We will then look upon them to come up with measures to repair and rectify, because you can't just leave it like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they put all their poles and wires up, you can't leave it like that, because what happens when you get heavy rain, because that's where all the Mount Kosciuszko, Snowy Mountains dams are. There's up to 8 major dams there, which supplies water for our farmers to feed the world. So what's going to happen when we get heavy rain? There's going to be a lot of topsoil washed off. That will wash into the dams. That will create stormwater damage. And it's, as I said, it's scarred, but I'm the type of person that if we act quick enough, right, and we will be getting our scholarship and cadetship participants to be involved in this project, and because that, as you know, is a very important part of their course, is understanding a quality organisation. Now, in understanding a quality organisation, you also have to understand environmental sustainability. So yes, very important.
Yes, I actually saw the photos showing how enormous the destruction is on the western side of the Tumat River that traverses 8 kilometers of the park.
Yeah,
It's massive. I
it
mean,
is massive, and I was absolutely staggered to see it. Now, if you think that's bad enough, there are half a dozen other major projects that have gone ahead in Australia, and the same damage has been done. Up in the major forests around Cairns, they've bulldozed the top of the mountains. All the forest has been bulldozed away, right? They've put dirt tracks all over, up and down, and they've put giant wind turbines in there. Now, again, the problem you have is water runoff, right? But the problem you have in 10 or 15 years' time, when these wind turbines run out and have to be replaced, someone's got to go in there with massive cranes, massive bulldozers, because there's literally hundreds and hundreds of tons of concrete which goes into the pads for each of these wind turbines. And I can see the look on your face, Miles.
I'm sorry, I'm pretty disappointed.
Yeah, and I want people to try and feel as how I do from my heart. Not only am I disgusted, I am bitterly hurt, and even to the point of being angry that governments of the day have allowed this to happen. It must stop. You can't. We're trying to teach our future generations environmental sustainability, and I bring things like this to your attention, right? And look, I hope this goes around the world. I employ it to go around the world for that video and those images to be shown all around the world, because that is not the way to address, as they call it, climate change, as we call it, changes to the climate. That is not the way to do it.
Yes. Well, good thing you're out here giving the youngsters their green belts in sustainability through your cadetship program, Ian, which is just brilliant. While some kids are trying to figure out how to sort their recycling, yours are out here auditing supply chains and, making a world a better place. And I hope it's not too late. And now, for the big finish, Ian, Earth Day is one thing, but businesses today are juggling a universe of risk, climate change, cybersecurity, compliance, and the list goes on. So how does ACI Global's integrated approach to CSR, risk management, and compliance training future-proof organizations while staying true to Earth Day values year-round?
Again, it's just a matter of going back to basics, going back to the very core of this, which I truly want people to stop and think about it. And quite often you hear about, it's all to do with global warming. It's all to do with too much CO2 and things like that. Now, I employ people to just stop and think. Stop and think when they went to school, or people should have been taught this at school, the process they called photosynthesis. The way the plant is able to use CO2 enables it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly the same as we as humans, we breathe in oxygen and we breathe out CO2. Now, if we couldn't breathe out CO2, which to me, the uneducated say that's a poison. It is not a poison. CO2 is the food of all plant life.
Mm-hmm.
It's the food for all trees,
Mm-hmm.
all crops. And to me, and this is where sometimes I am completely at odds with the activists and some of the things that are peddled. They say one of the major sectors of society we have to control is the agriculture sector. They're saying the agriculture sector produces too much CO2. Now, what I employ people to stop and think, go out onto some of these big properties and just see how their modern day farming practices are implemented, and they will see that they actually look after their properties, they look after their crops, and by doing that, they feed the people. Now, a very major part of environmental sustainability is the sustainability of people.
Yeah.
If we don't continue to allow CO2, photosynthesis, allow our crops to grow abundantly, forests to grow and populate and seed and populate, what's going to happen to our population? We won't be able to feed ourselves. So this is what I call environmental sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to understand changes to the climate, doing it the right way, right? Do it once, do it right, right? And if there's been damage done, I'm sorry, it has to be fixed up by the perpetrators.
Right.
The people that put those bulldozers into Mount Kosciuszko, they have to, by law, they should be called upon to return, clear it, replant it, and you will be the stewards of that area for the next 15 to 20 years till it grows to maturity before you then hand it back to the people.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be your cost because you have scarred it. You have to repair it.
Of course.
End of story.
Clearly, I agree with you. Going back to basics, one harm anyone, I guess, and resilience isn't just about agility anymore. It's also about sustainability of people, as you said, with a good dose of accountability. Accountability as the new agility. I'm stealing that for a mug. You're absolutely right. We have to prepare and we have to stay ready all the time, sustainably. And this is another wonderful episode with you, Ian. Thank you so much for being with us once again. You've not only given us insights today, we've got marching orders now, and better yet, the tools to get started. So thank you so much for your time.
Yes, and like I said, I employ everyone to follow that link, go and have a look and move in whatever way you can. And if we can get this video out as quickly as possible, because we're actually going to an election in the next couple of weeks, May the 3rd. So if this can be sent global-wise, but throughout Australia, through as many platforms as we can. And when people see it, I employ them to go to their people that they're voting for and say, are you going to see that this is fixed? If not, I'm not going to vote for you.
Yes, very well said. And we'll publish this right away. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ian. It's a pleasure to have you again. If you're watching or listening and not feeling just a little bit more inspired to rethink how your organization treats the planet and its people, then rewind and play it again, because what we've just unpacked here with Ian is a masterclass in meaningful, practical sustainability. So if you're curious about how to start your own sustainability journey, whether it's through ISO certified training, the ACI model, or joining one of their game-changing cadetship programs, head on to aciglobal.com.au. Thank you everyone for tuning in, for thinking big, and for keeping us flying high. Until our next episode, this has been your host, Miles. Stay focused and inspired with X-Rays.